Nick, I got to say, the title of this class was perfect for where I am right now, honestly.
Same with me. So
Oh, it's perfect.
timing.
It's like you read our minds.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was definitely more Amy's thing, but I'm glad that it was perfect timing for us. So yeah, I really think, I mean, my mentor always told me, like, you have to pack your parachute, which means like you're never going to jump out of a plane unless you prepared and you have that stuff ready to go. So just knowing that you've got the tools and you know what's going to happen after that makes it easier to jump out of the plane if you're already prepared. So okay, well, let's just get started. We're going to cram a lot into just a 1 hour class. So I think we'll just go ahead and get going. Feel free to ask questions as we go. We'll probably do a little more Q&A at the end as well, but let's go through it. Okay, so this really takes place once someone has said yes. So you talk to someone, they say, yeah, I do have a potential need for real estate help. I need to make a move, whether that's buying or selling. It can be kind of scary. It can be like, okay, what am I going to do next? How am I going to really make sure that I can perform for them and do what I told them I could? So I want to touch on a couple of things just to be clear. When you're setting that appointment, it's always important to make a firm appointment, especially when you're dealing with friends or family, which if it's one of your first deals, a lot of times it's going to be a family or a friend. I just see a lot of people, they'll say, oh, can I come to your house maybe 6 or 7? Like, I'll come over after work tomorrow or something like that. They make it very passive. And it's important for this appointment. Important for this appointment to be a very professional one, to have it be structured, because especially, like I said, if it is a friend or a family member, it's especially important to let them know that you're a pro and your relationship with them is changing a little bit so that you can better serve them in their real estate needs. So it's very important to set a firm appointment with a firm time and a location that you're going to be at. I always like to do that by asking them one of 2 times. So I'll just pull up my calendar. I'll say, okay, would 11 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday or 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday work better? And then let them choose. That just helps them kind of make their mind up and get an appointment on the books. I also like to, so if they're a seller, you're going to want to meet them at their home, most of the time at least. If they're a buyer, I prefer to have you meet them at the office. That way you can meet them in a public setting. You won't be alone with them, if they're strangers. And also it just sets the table for a more professional relationship where you can really be in charge and show that leadership with them, because they really do want someone who's going to walk with them and guide them through the process. So they want to be led. If it is a seller, 95% of the time you'll meet them at the house. So if they don't live at the house, maybe it's an investment property or something else, you'd probably meet them at the office in that case as well. But normally you're sitting at their kitchen table with them. So let's talk a little bit about what that appointment's going to look like. Well, backtrack 1 second. Obviously, the point of the lead generation is to book an appointment, right? And so you're going from lead generation to booking the appointment. You don't want to list their home over the phone. It doesn't work. It's not, unless they're out of state and it's a Zoom call or something, you really don't want to be closing over the phone. It's much easier for them to say no, or for it to be more confusing. You really want to do it in person so that you can make sure that you hear everything that they say. You can get them all the information they need to make the decision. So when you're meeting with them in person, you see these same trends. So we're following the same patterns, whether we're doing a buyer appointment or a seller appointment. They look very similar. They're just kind of, looking at them from different perspectives. So the first thing, when you get to that appointment, if it's a seller, well, regardless, show up on time. That's the first thing. You have to show up on time. And I do like to let them know, hey, we had an appointment at 6. It's 6 o'clock. Here I am. Let's move forward. I like to reinforce the fact that I'm on time, that I do things that I say I'm going to do, and I can be depended upon. So that's important. Show up on time. Then you're going to kind of set the table for your discussion. If it's a seller, typically I'll say, hey, great to see you. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough around your house if that's okay. I'll put my stuff on the kitchen table. my packet of stuff. I'll put it on the kitchen table. I'll say, okay, I'm going to take a quick look around your house. If it's a buyer, I'm bringing them into the office, into the conference room or whatever. And I'm just saying, okay, let's chat more about this. The first step, once you've sat down and you're having that conversation, is always going to be building rapport. So you don't want to jump directly into, the nuts and the bolts of the real estate transaction. You first want to do that small talk, but preferably a more purposeful small talk. So you want to talk to them about how their day is, but you also want to talk to them about their family and how things are going. Hey, how are you dealing with everything crazy that's going on? Hey, aren't you relieved that we've got a fresh, clean slate to start with this year or whatever? You just want to kind of build a little rapport, have a little conversation with them and help them feel, at ease. Let them know that you're on their team. The next step is always going to be asking a lot of questions. So once you feel like you've kind of settled into that conversation, then I'll ask a question. And usually what that looks like is, well, hey, what has you interested in making a move anyways? So that's whether it's a buyer or a seller. Hey, what's got you interested in making this move? And so this is going to help you find their motivation. It's really important to find out what's most important to them. That way you can help them get that. And so what that means is you have to ask a lot of questions and you have to go very deep. So whatever they answer you with, if I say, hey, what has you interested in making a move? They might tell me, oh, well, it's, I need to downsize. I need to get a smaller home. A lot of people will write down, okay, they need to downsize, and then they move on to the next step. But you really want to dig in deep. So now you want to go to, awesome, why is that so important to you? Why is it important for you to downsize? Well, we're not as mobile. We can't keep up with our house as much. Our kids are grown and gone, so it's not important for us to have all this extra space. Okay, and that's going to help you a lot. Why is that going to help you so much? Well, it's going to give us more free time. It's going to give us time to go on vacation and not worry so much about the house, that sort of thing. And so you're going to really dig into why is this going to make their life so much better? And as you do that, because you're asking the questions and then they're answering them with their deep, their big why, their big motivation, they're literally selling you on why they need to move. So we still are salespeople, but we're not selling them on how great the market is and they need to make a move. If it's a buyer, we're not selling them on, oh, you have to buy now because rates are low and whatever. We're literally like, hey, why is it important to you? For a buyer, that might be, hey, I really want to get my own house. A lot of people will say, okay, great. But for us, we say, awesome, why is that important to you? Well, I really want to move. I really want to have my own space. Awesome. What does that mean for you? Why is that so important? Well, I live with my in-laws. And then you'll be like, oh, that's a big motivator. Like, they want to move out of their in-laws house. That's a big motivation. You can kind of latch onto that and be like, okay, when times get tough, we're going to come back to this and we're going to say, okay, man, you told me how important it was for you to get out of living with your in-laws. You've done it for too long and you're sick of them. Let's not let this little hurdle get in the way or something like that. So it is really important to dig into that motivation, figure out what their real reason for making this move is, whether they're a buyer or a seller. It should sound very much the same. The next step I like to go into is educate them on the process. So you find out what they need, you really build rapport and find their motivation. Now you're going to educate them on the process. Now, in my mind, the point of educating them on this transaction is not so that they learn all of this and they understand it front and back. It's really just because people have a fear that you don't have a plan. They're afraid when they feel like there's not a system, there's not a plan that's going to be followed up on. And so it's important to just educate them on the process. And I'm going to actually go through it with you really quick. Like I said, you're not trying to explain it to them so they remember it forever and ever, because I always remind them, hey, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. And then don't worry about it. I'm going to be here for the whole thing. You don't have to do this on your own. That's what I'm here for. But giving them a little bit of the plan helps them feel comfortable with it. So I want to show you really quick. I'm going to share my screen. Well, actually, Amy, you might have to help me with that. Let's see. Oh, no, I think it will. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So I'm just popping into, for those of you who don't know, we do have classes, and the week of the 18th this month, we have Ignite coming up. So keep an eye out for that, where in Ignite will help you build your buyer and seller presentations in Command. So if you don't have this, don't worry, we can help. We'll get that all set up. But these are the buyer consultations that you would take, buyer presentations that you would take with them, with you, or the listing presentation if it's for a seller. So let me just roll through really quickly. I want to show you how easy it sounds and how easy it is to describe this to someone. This is what mine looks like. So if I'm going to talk to, let's do the seller one. What educating them sounds like is like this. I say, okay, great. Now I know you're interested in moving to St. George. We know why it's so important to you. Don't worry, I can totally take care of it for you. I really appreciate you trusting me to help you through this process. Let me just tell you a little bit about what it's going to look like so that I can set good expectations. And I can share this with any of you, or if you want to, kind of how I set this up, if you like it, or you can, you know, the one in Command is just totally editable. So you can add steps, take it out, super easy. But what this is going to sound like is, okay, let's say Amy's my client. Hey, Amy, so I'm going to, I just want to give you a quick idea of what this process is going to look like. So you kind of know what to expect throughout this. If I go too quick, just let me know. But I just want to show you the process really quick. First step is going to be getting your listing ready for ready to sell. So first steps are declutter, deep clean, and stage the home. It's really important that when people see your home, they see it as a clean slate where they can imagine themselves and their family living. So we want to get it looking amazing. And it really is different than just when the in-laws come over for the holidays. Like we're gonna really clear it out. We want to get rid of a lot of the decorations and everything. You're not gonna need those anyways. We can even box those up now. They're gonna be moving with you within the next 90 days anyhow. Let's get all that stuff, pack it up and load it in the garage because we want this house to look nice and open. The next step is the marketing that we're gonna do. So we're gonna get professional photography. We're going to put a sign and lockbox up and launch our marketing campaign. After that, we're going to do a grand open house. So on Saturday, we're going to have a big open house from 11 to 2, where I'm going to get all these buyers through at once. That's going to make your life more convenient. It's going to be easier for you to not have a bunch of people coming in at different times. It's going to be one big open house where you can, where we can get everyone through at once. So just plan on taking that Saturday and go do something fun with the family. I'll take care of everything. Make sure your house is well taken care of. And just give me a little space and I'll get everyone through. And once we do that, we'll also have some additional buyer showings. And we're going to hopefully get some offers received and negotiated. Now in this market, we expect that if we price it correctly, we should get those offers fairly quickly and be able to get it negotiated. In a different market, we'd be having a little different conversation, right? So once we've found an offer, we decide that we want to accept it. Then we're going to go into this next phase, which is kind of the pending phase, the under contract phase. The first thing that the buyers are going to do is they're going to deposit their earnest money, which just kind of says that they're serious. It puts money off to the side and says they're planning on continuing with this sale. They'll also be expecting our seller disclosures. So I'm going to give those to you today so you can fill those out. It's about 7 pages long, so it's a lot of homework. So I'm going to leave them here for you, and then I'll pick them back up when we come to get the pictures taken, if that works. The next step is they're going to do their due diligence. So they're going to hire an inspector that comes through and just checks the whole function of the home. They may do mold, meth, and radon testing just to make sure they're happy with the condition of the home. If there's any issues, if there's any potential fixes that they want, they may ask for them. We will not be required to do any repairs, but of course we'll look at them and see if they're reasonable. Then we've got the appraisal. The buyer's going to have their lender come out and make sure that they agree on the value. Make sure that they don't think you've overpaid, that the buyer has overpaid for the property. And then they'll get their final loan approval. After that's all done, then we'll go to the final walkthrough. That's where the buyer's going to come, make sure the house still looks like it's in the same condition that it was when they initially put in their offer. We'll also go and sign the closing documents by the settlement deadline. Just as a note, that's not when you're going to have to pass keys, and you're not going to get your cash at the closing table, but typically within a day or two, all the funds will be dispersed. It'll be recorded with the county, and then we can pass your home along. So did you have any questions on that, or does that sound pretty good?
That sounds awesome. Where do I sign?
Awesome. Well, we'll get there. I just want you to know I don't need you to remember all of this, okay? So I'm here for you. I've got your back. Don't worry about all this. I just want to give you a quick idea of kind of what it's going to look like. So that's kind of what the education portion sounds like. The buyer side is very similar. First step, consultation with agent and lender, set up an online search, choose some properties to see, negotiate an offer. And then from there, it's virtually identical. Through that process, you do want to set some good expectations. So when I go and it says select your top 3 to 5 listings and view them in person. Right now, I tell them, hey, it's possible you're not going to find 3 houses that you like. You might find 1 house that you like. And I'm dedicated to get you into that house immediately. So you're going to kind of let them know. And at that same time, I tell them, hey, it's very likely that you're going to put offers on houses that you're not going to get. And so I kind of like to set those expectations up front so that doesn't completely derail them. Buyers get very emotional. And so I do like to set up those kind of expectations, because if they don't know that that's possible, they're going to be completely crushed when they don't get their first offer accepted. So it's important for them to know that before they walk into their first house. I do like to go over the earnest money deposit. Typically we do 1% of an earnest money deposit. So if it's 300,000, they're going to want to put 3,000 down, something like that. Obviously the higher you do, typically it's considered a stronger offer. The lower you do, it'd be the weaker the offer. So try to get them set up on 1%. That's a good healthy amount to have some skin in the game. And you're not going to want to do some tiny amount. You're not going to get your offer accepted if that's the case, because you'll likely be competing with a lot of other offers. I do talk to them about due diligence and the inspections. Typically, I have them budget about $500 for inspections, which that will usually get them the full inspection plus a meth test as well for about $500 or $600. So I like to tally it up, let them know what to expect from that. I do like to explain to them that if something goes wrong in due diligence, that we can still cancel and they'll get their earnest money back, but they don't get reimbursed for the inspection or the appraisal if it's already been paid for. So like I say, you just want to set those good expectations. And then the other thing I like to make sure they're clear on is, hey, we're going to sign closing documents one day and it's going to fund and record on a different day. That way they're not expecting when they get to the closing table, they're going to collect their keys. That's not how it works. And so just letting them know that when they sign on their documents, they're typically going to get keys within another couple of days. And that way, by setting these expectations that are very cushioned and very conservative, it's awesome, because then we can surprise them. Maybe the deal funds and records the same day and they get their keys that same day. That's a huge win. But we really try not to overpromise, because that's the biggest way to get your clients upset, and that's not going to lead them to giving you referrals. So we kind of go through that education portion. So just to recap, show up on time, build rapport, talk to them, not necessarily just about real estate, but kind of have a real conversation with them, find their motivation, ask deep questions, and go multiple layers deep to find out what really is driving them to make this decision. Have them sell you on why this transaction is so important to them, rather than you sell them on why it's so important for them to be doing it. I guess I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Educate them on the process. Make sure they know that you have a plan and you're there to take care of them, and that there's kind of a pathway for them. Then we're going to go into on sellers. Then we go into a little marketing, or at least that's what I like to do. You don't want to bore them. So literally my marketing conversation is, hey, let me give you an idea. I always say, suffice to say that I'm a very aggressive marketer of real estate. I'm going to make sure you get a lot of eyeballs on your, listing. But let me just give you two examples of what I do for your marketing that's working for marketing your home that's working really well right now. One is professional photography. Having those pictures look amazing is super important because when the buyers see your house for the first time, it's going to be online. So we need it to really shine so that they fall in love with it first online and they want to come take another look. The other thing is our 3D virtual tours. Obviously, with the changes that we've seen in the world over the last little bit, not everyone's going to feel super comfortable coming into your home to take a look at it. And so we do these 3D virtual tours. It's all included in your listing. And that just makes sure that anyone who's not comfortable seeing your home in person can just view it online virtually. And that really, really helps to get more people walking through it. Do you have any questions on my marketing? And they
You
always
t-
say no.
You take the cost for that, right?
Yes, I do. You don't have to, but I would say most agents are going to pay for the photography, and the 3D virtual tour is not required. And I'll be honest with you, the 3D virtual tour is it's something I like to spend money on, things that I can brag to my seller about. That's like what I like to spend money on, and it does help. It makes them feel comfortable because we're being we're being dynamic. We're changing with the market. We're making sure we keep up with where the market's at right now. So I like to offer it. If I had to be completely honest, I don't know how. I couldn't say a certain amount more. You know, my home sell for X amount more because of the 3D tour. So if you don't do one, it doesn't make you a bad agent or anything. But I do like to offer those two things. I like to pay for them and offer that as kind of part of my service to the seller. And we have someone in our office that does the 3D tours for $200. I'm pretty sure that's what he charges.
And where do you market these? I mean, the pictures are obvious, but what about the 3D? Is that on social media?
Yeah, the 3D tour can be attached to the MLS listing, so then it'll get syndicated to all of those other websites. So that helps. And then, yeah, I do usually put it on my social media. You could do an ad. You know, on the ad, I'd probably do a picture of the house and then, you know, attach the 3D virtual tour, like click here for more, you know, click here for the 3D tour or something like that. Yeah. So it just helps. It also does help weed out people who wouldn't have liked the house anyways, and they went through the virtual tour and they're like, oh yeah, that doesn't work for me, which means less showings for the seller that the seller has to be inconvenienced for. So I think it's kind of a win-win that way. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, comfortable with that? Okay. So like I said, I just touch on two quick marketing items and just say, hey, here's two things that are working really well. Here's why they work really well right now. Do you have any questions? And they say no. I don't like to bore them with 1,000,001 things that we do to market their home. So you may take a different approach, but then for buyers, on the buyer side, we're not going to talk about marketing, obviously, but we're going to educate them on the process and then go into their wants and needs. So you really probably should have some sort of form. I know there was one in the Ignite kit. I don't know if you guys remember seeing that. If you need something, just email me and I'll send you the form that I use. But just for the buyers, after you've done all that, then you go into the, you know, what's important to you? What area do you want to be in? What are your wants and your needs? Talk about price range. Talk about, you know, what's really important for them in their new house. I think it's really important on the buyer side to do it in this order, because when the buyer comes in, they just start, oh, I want this. You know, this is really what I want for my new house. And it really goes a long way for you to structure the meeting in a way where you get them the information and you have it very, you know, lined up really well so that you're the kind of the one in charge, since you're going to be the leader. And then when you get to that end, you kind of say, okay, now tell me what you want. And then they'll just give you all their, you know, their wish list items and everything. And just take really good notes. Make sure you know why those things are important to them. Make sure you know if they're, you know, deal breakers or not. A lot of times they think, you know, a finished basement would be amazing. You might hear that as it's a requirement, but a lot of times when they say, oh, a finished basement would be awesome, let's not limit our searches to only things with finished basements and stuff like that. You really want to get an idea of what your wants and needs are, because there's not a lot of inventory out there. So we need to cast a wide net for the properties that they're looking at, and then kind of filter them out if they don't work from there. But you do want to have some properties to send them, because that's going to keep you engaged with them. Oh yeah, go ahead, Kareem. Are you?
Hey, I was just curious. I always wonder, like, what is the value to the buyer of using a realtor to find a home versus just finding one on their own?
Yeah. Well, I think we should all have our own kind of our own value proposition put together, So you might think about what you can bring that's specific. Like for me, what that is why should they hire me? I'm a pro. I know the contracts like the back of my hand, and I'm a tough negotiator, so I can get them the best deal. And a lot of times, like right now, what does getting them the best deal mean? It means I get them the house that they want. When we're competing with 15 other offers, I'm going to help them craft that offer to be as competitive as possible. We've got lots of tips and tricks, lots of things we can do to try to get those offers accepted. So for me, I focus on the negotiation, and my whole business is based around, like, my tagline is moving made easy. Everything on my stuff is moving made easy. And that's just my goal, is to make it super simple. Don't overcomplicate it. I understand the contracts really well, and I can, make sure that they're set up for the buyer's favor or for the seller's favor, whichever side I'm on. But I want to make that process simple for them. So think about, I also have one of our new agents. He's a great photographer, takes amazing pictures. And I'm like, that's your thing. I can't advertise that I have the magic touch with making your pictures look amazing. I do hire a good photographer, but I'm like, for him, I think you should totally go that direction. And so you guys probably all have your own skills that you can latch onto and say, hey, here's my thing. This is what I do for my people,
I have a question regarding a buyer too. Since I've been in these discussions now a couple of times, with both Amy and Nick here, your experience when it comes to having a client signing the buyer broker agreement, how adamant do you need to be about them doing it before you start showing, or should you see maybe, giving them a tips? Hey, I just saw this amazing place that I think would be perfect for you. Let's go look at it, as a marketing tool, if that makes sense.
I'll go over a little bit when we go over the buyer broker.
Okay.
Just kind of some tips on what I use to get them to sign that at that buyer's appointment, so that you have it ahead of time. But yeah, we can. I don't know if Nick, if you have anything special, but I'll kind of give you my tips when we go over that part a little bit.
Yeah, I'll totally defer to Amy. Yeah, I do. I mean, I do like to use some of that stuff as marketing, as a way to kind of pique their curiosity and get them thinking about it. It is important to get the buyer broker signed, not so much just for the legality of it, because, I don't think anyone really enforces, takes their clients and rakes them over with those contracts. But it's just important because it kind of sets the tone for, hey, we're working together. We have this relationship, and it just sets the tone that we are working together. But I'm not a super stickler that it has to be done on the very first minute. But, we really should be getting those as just kind of a token of that relationship. And my tips and tricks would just be on there. It says all of the things that we do for them. We give them obedience, loyalty, reasonable care, whatever. There's a whole list of things we do for them. I just focus on that rather than, oh, I'm going to get paid at the end of this transaction. Just focus on what you're doing for them. And then they don't have a problem signing it usually. So I'll let Amy cover a little more on Kareem's thing. I just was thinking, did I answer that fully as far as the buyer, why work with an agent? Know why they should work with you as opposed to most other agents. I think that's the most important thing. Most people are not out there doing it on their own. If they don't use you, they're typically going to go with someone else. They're not going to go do it
Probably
alone.
the listing agent. So
Yeah.
know the value that you can provide over them using the listing agent that they met at the open house.
Totally. Yeah, great point. So, I mean, the buyers typically, they're not going to pay a commission. That's not 100% of the time, but majority of the time, they're not gonna have to pay the commission. Now, I never make that my value proposition of, oh, you don't have to pay me, because that's a pretty poor value proposition. Like, no, you don't have to pay me, I'm free. That's not showing your value. Show like the fact that you can negotiate their contract, and make a commitment to them. For my buyers, I make a commitment that I'll get them into any house they want to see, when they want to see it, same day. Now I don't say that I will. I say I will get you in the home. Sometimes that's me. Sometimes I'm booked in appointments and I'm going to send someone else. But that's the commitment that I make to them, and that's a big deal. I've gotten a lot of clients that way recently because houses go so quick they can't wait a day or two to see the house. So, anyways, that's kind of what I would say the value is there. Do you guys have any other questions that you want to touch on before we go into? Amy's going to go into a lot of the forms, the actual, what you actually do next after this. Any other questions for me in the meantime? Okay.
I do have a question. When you are listing a house, and I mean, I understand setting up a date for an open house, usually a Saturday, right? But how about the other showing times? How many do you need? How do you work that out with the owners? Because ideally they shouldn't be there and they need to keep the house clean and all of that. And yet you probably
Selling
want
your house is hard. And I let them know that when I'm sitting
Yeah.
with them, that this is going to be hard and you're going to have to be prepared for showings every day until this sucker's under contract.
So it's
So-
not necessarily that you set certain time dates, or it's more that you have a conversation with the buyer and maybe the seller.
The buyer's agents are going to just send you requests for when
Yeah.
they want to get their buyers in. And you're just going to reach out to your seller and say, I have a request at noon
Mhm.
today. Can you make it happen?
Okay,
And yeah, they need to make it happen.
been there, done that, honestly, but it's just wanted to know your strategy.
And we do a lot of us do the grand open house strategy too. Some people love it. Buyers agents hate it, but a lot of times we'll set it up where we list, like for mine, I'll speak for my personal listings. You guys, we can have other discussions, but for me, I list on Wednesdays. I don't do showings on Thursdays and Fridays, which normally I have professional cleaners going in on Thursday or Friday anyways. And then on Saturday, I do a grand open house. And that does make it a little more convenient for my sellers because they're not having to show it Thursday and Friday. And then I'm getting everyone in on Saturday. And I do book out, I say, hey, we'll have the big open house Saturday morning, and then do plan on having showings the rest of the day as well. And I'll have my sellers leave. That's kind of the strategy that I use right now. That's because the market's hot as could be. It works really well, makes it convenient for the sellers. But typically then that house is selling that weekend, which is great. That's not always going to be the case.
Yeah,
So
but you try to stick with one day, basically.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And I don't overpromise them, but I do say, hey, give me the Saturday and let me see what I can do. I'm going to give it every effort I can. So, but that's something that's going to move with the market. Okay, I'm going to stay here, but I'm going to mute for a second so that I'm not tempted to jump in, and I'm going to pass it over to Amy.
You can jump in. Kareem, did you have a question?
Yes, I was recently given a presentation to a seller, and they said, they loved my unique value proposition, and their only concerns were, number one, the appraisal. But my question is about how you deal with objections to paying a commission.
It's a hard one for sure. You really have to sell your value, and the more numbers you get under your belt, the more you'll be able to say, hey, I sell at 98% of list price. I sell, my average listing sells in less than 10 days. I do, like, you want to sell yourself to them to earn your commission. I do have a lot of people that will say, well, hey, homie, we'll do it for 1,500 or whatever. So what are you doing that they're not? And I mean, my honest response, be it good or not, I mean, I should hit stop record, is I'm doing everything that they're not. I'm setting the showings. I'm holding the open houses. I mean, with homie, they you talk to the owners. The agent isn't even involved until there's a contract. I've had so many showings where we come to look at a homey listing, the sellers are showing the home and the sellers give away all of their negotiation power while walking us through the house. You need someone on your side to protect you that knows all the contract, the ins and outs, the way to get the most money for your house, and that will actually sell it. 30% or more, I'm sure the numbers have changed drastically, of listings that homey takes don't even sell. So know your numbers, know your competition's numbers, and just sell your value. You're selling yourself to the sellers to get the listing.
Can I just address something, not something that you say to them, but something that you should be thinking in your head is the honest truth is they don't want an agent that's going to do a cheap job for them. They want an agent who's a tough negotiator who will help them. I mean, when you need a divorce attorney, you want one that's so mean that you don't even really like them.
Yes.
Because you
if
need
I
someone
can't
who
negotiate my own commission successfully, how am I going to negotiate an offer on your home to get you the most money? If I'm willing to do this for nothing, how much money am I going to make for you? That's my negotiation power. If I can't negotiate my own commission, how am I going to negotiate an offer on your home that is getting you what you want to get?
I love that. Yeah, so it's kind of like an opportunity to show them your negotiation skills.
Absolutely.
I heard somebody say too early on that, we should quote unquote sell ourselves as a full service agent, that we will be there basically holding their hands. And I just like that full service agent compared to these other cheap options that are out there.
Yeah.
100%.
It's a great point. I've heard people talk about VIP program, their seller, like a certain VIP program that they make, or concierge program or something like that, that higher level of service where they're like, oh, I'm going to be given the white glove treatment that, all the stops are pulled out, So I think that's a big deal, but they respect you more when you will hold your ground. They act like they want you to reduce, but what they really want you to do is they want you to hold your ground, and they want to know they've got someone who's actually competent helping them out. And if they don't, they want it at a reduced price. But if you show that you're competent, that you're a tough negotiator, that this is not your only opportunity to make money, you have lots of clients, this is how you do it, this is what your pricing is, and that's what it is, they can kind of take it or leave it, sort of thing.
Watch your mannerisms and the way you present yourself. There's a saying, and I'm sure you've heard it, and if you haven't, you'll hear it 100 times now, but you can't walk into an appointment with commission breath. You cannot be needy, and you can't act like I've got to get this listing because I've got bills to pay. They're going to fill it, and it's a turnoff. You've got to come walking in, I am a real estate rock star. This is what I can do for you, and you would be crazy not to use me.
100%.
All right, well, we can jump in real quick to just the logistical side of what do you need to take with you? How do you fill it out? What do you do with it? And we'll kind of go through this as quick as possible because I know we're kind of running out of time a little bit, but I think we've had some good combos. So let me know if you have questions. Let's see, let me share. Okay, can you guys see the dashboard? All things Keller Williams, everything starts at the dashboard. So if you come into your opportunities, you've already met with these people. You got them to say yes. They should already be a contact inside an opportunity. So we're just going to go into their opportunity. We're going to look at it. If you go to documents and your consultation, this is going to tell you everything you need to start the process with your client. So this particular client is a buyer. So we're going to talk a little bit about the buyer broker agreement. The other documents that you're going to want to have are buyer due diligence and wire fraud. If you want to get these all signed at that initial appointment, go right ahead. That's awesome. That's great. A lot of times I will get the buyer broker signed. I'm not going to push them for the other stuff. It's a little bit of overwhelm. They're just getting started. You can get that other stuff when they go under contract. but however you want to do it, that's great. So then we're going to go to the MLS. So you can just click on the Utah Real Estate button on your dashboard. It's going to launch the MLS for you, and I'm logged in. If you go to your forms library, you can just scroll right down to, sometimes it takes me a minute to find it, exclusive buyer broker agreement designated agency. So this is the one that we're going to use. So we're going to fill this out. I'm going to use Lori as a guinea pig. So we're going to put it between, this is an agreement between the brokerage and your client, and you are representing them as the buyer's agent. This date is the ending date. Don't put the date that you're signing it, or else you just signed it and ended it on the same date. So what date you put here is up to you. I typically do like 6 months. If I can't get you in a house in 6 months, we need to figure something out. Like that should be plenty of time. This also covers you though. If it ends up being new construction, you might actually have to extend this depending on which way they go. So I could put the 7th day of January 2020. Oh, January is right now. Just kidding. June. Actually, it's July. 6 months. 2021. And here you're going to define what properties this agreement is going to cover. And you have some options here. And this is kind of a negotiation part. If they're hesitant to fill this out and they're nervous, and you're writing, you want to go see one property and you want them on one property, you can put the address right here. This will only marry you to them for that one property. So if they decide to go buy something else, your buyer broker doesn't cover that. I try in my negotiations to get them to cover a broader area. So I will usually do Salt Lake in Utah County. Unless I know they're looking at Davis, then I'll put Davis, or, you know, wherever. Give yourself, you know, enough coverage. So you can put in, you know, Salt Lake County, whatever. Then here's the brokerage fee. There's a couple ways that you can handle that. You can put in 3%. There are a lot of offers out there that the BAC is not 3%. It might be 2.5%. It might be 2%. I actually saw one listing on the MLS where the BAC was $100. So this is a good chance for you to have an upfront conversation with your client on what is going to happen if they're offering less than the standard BAC. I handle my business differently than you might handle your business. This part is up to you. I typically tell them that unless there's extenuating circumstances, I will take what the seller is offering as long as it is a reasonable amount. If it's 2.5%, I'm not going to come after my buyer for the other 0.5%. You can. And if you're going to, I suggest you put 3% here and have that conversation with them up front. I also talk to them about for sale by owners. If it's a for sale by owner, I can help you with that. I'd love to help you with that. We will need to negotiate the commission into the contract. So be aware of that. Mhm.
So if it says, say, you know, 2% in, you know, in the MLS listing, for example, I've seen that, you know, and you write 3% here, can you kind of come to kind of how do you work that if you say, like, I don't come after them for that extra 1 or 0.5%? Is that more a mutual agreement of, you know, above this that?
It's a discussion you're going to have with them.
Okay.
And I always let them know if they're offering less, always point out what you're doing for your clients. Like, don't just not say, hey, this listing was 2.5% and I took it at 2.5% and I could have pushed for 3 and not say anything. Like, point out your value. Be like, hey, they were only offering 2.5%. I'm happy to help you out. This is the perfect home for you. I'm comfortable doing this. Let's get this done. I'm fine. And they're going to be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That is so generous of you. Oh my gosh, you've just earned so many brownie points in their head, right? There are a lot of agents, and I love these agents, that they won't take less than 3. That's great. It keeps the standards of our industry high, and that's a great thing. But this is a negotiation point that you have with your buyer. So you can always say the seller pays commissions, but if the seller is offering $100, are you going to be okay with $100? It's a conversation to have with your buyer, right? The protection period, I usually do 3 months. That means if within 3 months of this ending, if they purchase a home that you took them to, that you sent to them, that they will honor this agreement. So buyer representations and disclosures, this just lets them know that, for me, I always say this is where we get married. This establishes our agency between the two of us. And I'll go through and tell them, you know, these are the duties that I have to you, and you get loyalty and all of this great, amazing things. And I just ask the same from you. Professional advice, I just let them know, hey, I have contacts for anyone you could possibly need. If you need a lawyer, an electrician, or a plumber, you call me. It's not going to be me, but I'll get you to the right person. Dispute resolution, if anyone has a problem with anybody, we always go to mediation. Never had it happen. If it does, this is how we handle it. Losers always pay attorney fees. This states that you're authorized. And then you can go over here, you know, and kind of go through the earnest money, have that conversation, how that works. Generally, there's not any attachments to this. Equal opportunity, all money is green. I do electronic signatures. You'll probably see a lot of things come through with DocuSign. Due on sale, you can go into this a little bit more with them, but it's, there's some properties that have a due on sale clause triggered, and you just need to be, as an agent, aware of what homes you're showing them. This is the entire agreement. This is the effective date. And I just basically let them know this establishes our agency, and this gives me the permission to negotiate on your behalf. This lets me set up showings for you. This lets me provide you access to homes. This lets me negotiate on your behalf with the seller. Without this, I don't have those rights. Do you feel comfortable moving forward with me so that we can get started on your home search? I have maybe one time had someone say, oh, I'm just not sure. I don't know. Let me think about it. And I'll say, okay, you know, that's fine. Think about it. Let me know. And we'll go out and we'll see houses once you're comfortable with it. But for me, I use it as leverage of this makes me your agent. And as your agent, I'm going to go find you properties. I'm going to go get you into those properties. I'm going to talk to the seller. I'm going to get you the very best deal. I'm going to help you write an offer. I can't do any of that without this. How do you feel about this? I also let them know that if at any point they're not happy with my service, I will let them out of this contract. Now, that is not something that you have to do. That's something that I always choose to do because I don't want to work with someone if they've decided they don't want to work with me. Now, if they're trying to leave me to go work with an agent who's going to cut them a better commission, then we're going to have a conversation. But if for some reason they decided that, you know, gosh, Amy rubs me the wrong way, I don't like working with her, then you know what? That's fine. You can go work with somebody else. I don't need it, you know? So that's something that you can say. Sometimes that puts them at ease as well. Just like, okay, because I don't really know her. I just met her and now she's asking me for this huge commitment. You know, I always say if for some reason you don't want to work with me, I haven't had it happen, but I want you to be happy. And if you don't want to work with me, then that might not be the best fit. I try to get this signed at my buyer broker appointments. Once you have this signed, I think, because I just scanned one in, I can show you.
Amy, question.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that at your appointment, do you have that printed up for them to
Yes.
sign? Okay.
So when I walk into a buyer broker, let's just talk about the buyer broker one first. I always come prepared. So I usually have a hostess gift. This might be a girly thing. I usually bring them something, a little. I always tell everybody, I give away all my little things. Go to Kneaders, go through the drive-through, tell them you want a loaf of whatever banana bread and wrap it. They wrap it in cellophane. They put a big, beautiful bow on it. It's like $5. Take it with a thank you card that says, thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I hope to work with you in the future. put 3 business cards inside the card. Take that, take your buyer consultation, and take a printed out buyer broker agreement. And then when I sit down at the table, we talk, we make, we do report everything Nick said, and I give them their gift. And then I say, okay, are we ready to go? Here's this buyer broker agreement. This is what it means. Are you ready to start looking at houses? Let's get this signed. I leave them with the buyer consultation packet. I give them a copy of the buyer broker, and then I upload it into Command. So that's what I would take with a buyer broker.
You give them a copy of the buyer broker? Do you give them a,
required-
yeah, that makes
Required to
sense.
give them a copy of everything that they sign.
Well, that
So-
makes sense, but if they sign it there at, wherever you are and you don't have a copying machine, can you
You
send
can
it
send it
in-
later. You
Okay,
just have
that's
to,
what I
you can
wanted.
even send it at closing. You don't have to send it there. A lot of them want it there because they're just nervous.
Yeah, sure.
And,
sure.
so it's just kind of like, here's a copy of what you signed. So if you want to go back through and reread it when you get home, if you have any questions, feel free to call me. I'm happy to explain anything. It just gives them a sense of security.
But it's not, but what I wonder was, you don't bring an extra copy of the buyer broker and then you sign 2 copies, or even
I
leave?
don't.
Okay,
No.
all right.
If they don't want one, then I'll just send it at the end of the deal. You're going to send them a copy of everything that they signed anyways. Yeah, Kareem.
So do you give them the banana bread before they sign it, or you hang on to
I
it?
hold it hostage. No, yes, I always give it to them just as soon as they come in, and I just say, here's a little something. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time. I really appreciate it, kind of a thing.
Nice.
For sure. And then once you've got that, you can just come in here to Command under your consultation, click Add File. Usually my buyer brokers are wet signatures because I'm trying to have that appointment with them. So you just go manually into your thing, upload your buyer broker agreement, assign, it's in there. You don't submit your file till after you have a contract, but you can start collecting these documents as you go. Let's see, I think I put this one in a real file, so I'm going to remove it. As far as a listing goes, this one has more documentation, right? So there's a few things. If you look in Command, let me go to a listing. So here's a listing. So if you look under the listed, here's all of the documents that are required for a new listing. So I typically will get the wire fraud, the exclusive right to sell, and the MLS input signed at my listing appointment. And then I'm going to leave a copy of the seller's disclosures with them to fill out. And then I try to get them back within a couple days, but sometimes they have to look up things and it takes them a while, and you cannot fill that document out for them. All you can do is provide it for them. So you can come back into Utah Real Estate, come back into Forms Library. We're going to go into listings, and we're going to do the exclusive right to sell, designated agency. Did that go over? Yep. We're going to do the seller property condition disclosure. And then the listing input form is done separately. So you can do create packet. If I open, oh, I did that on the wrong, you can hit new tab, and it's going to open a second MLS tab for you. That was a fun trick I learned not that long ago. I should have learned that a long time ago. You can come here, and we want to pull up the last time that this house was listed. So I'm just going to pull up my house. Don't come rob me or anything. Salt Lake, search. Okay, there we go. So you can pull this up. I always print out a copy of the tax data and put it with my CMA for my listing. And then you can also go and you can see the last time it was listed. So this was listed, I've lived there a long time. I lived there like a million years. So you can see the last time it was listed. The reason you want this is you want to, I print this out. It's good to have on hand when you're looking at all the details, but I want the MLS number. So I'm going to copy that out. And then here when it says auto populate fields, I'm going to paste in that MLS number and hit load. and then fill update fields. Now, if I close this, you'll see it filled in some of my information for me. So now you can put in, I'll sell my house to Lori again. And then it puts me as the seller's agent, how long your listing period is going to be. Again, this is a negotiation point. You can negotiate how long you want to list it for. And then here you've got the brokerage fee. So this is the total brokerage fee. So if you're going to do a 6% listing, like we all are just going to do 6% listings, you're going to do 6%. And then down here, this is how much you're going to offer for the buyer's agent commission. So we're all going to offer 3% because that's the right thing to do, right? So make sure that you have the two separate amounts on there and that they understand how much goes to each agent. There's a spot for them to initial there. And then protection period, again, I always do 3 months. You do what feels good to you. You're going to go over, I probably don't have time to go over all of the little paragraphs here. Attachments, there might be attachments to this listing agreement, and I'm sure you'll learn more about that in the contracts class. And then foreign investment, yada, yada. So we get that all signed. We hit or filled out, we hit next form. This is going to take us to our seller's disclosures. The only part of this form that you can fill out is the seller's name. So that's all you can fill out on that one. Save your packet. Print to PDF. I'm going to print this and take it with me to my listing appointment. And you can see it prints it all out on a PDF here. And I'll show you how to do it digitally too, in case you end up sending it to them digitally. As far as the listing, you're going to come under My Listings and do Create New Listing. So here it says based on MLS number. So again, we want this MLS number from when it was previously listed just to get us started. So you're going to put that in there. This will populate the tax ID and address information, so that's good. If you have a co-agent on it with you, like if you're on a team or something, or you have a co-agent, you can put their information there. And then you would just put in whatever you're going to name that listing and hit Start Listing. So now it's pinpointed the house on the map. It's already got the address. All of
How do you name them? Do you like give them the?
I usually do the person's last name,
Yeah,
or maybe the street name.
Mhm.
If you've sold multiple to that person, then I might do it under the street name. So just kind of however you want to manage yours. Everything with a asterisk is going to let you know what you need. There's 11 required fields. It's going to let you know if there's anything you've done wrong, anything you're missing. So you can put in list price. I'm just going to do $350. That's not really wouldn't be my list price. Not a short sell. Make sure it's correct on the map. It fills in all this information for you. So that is great and wonderful. Make sure you mark as much as possible. It's going to fill in all this. Now, I bought my house, what is that, almost 17 years ago. I'm not one of those realtors that moves a lot. Most people do. I don't. So a lot of stuff may have changed on this. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill out, make sure you put in how much BAC you're offering, whether it's gross or net. You're going to fill it out to the best of your abilities. And then I usually save as unfinished so that I can come back to this. I'm going to open it. Oh dear, how do I open it? Why isn't it opening it? Nick, edit. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to print it to PDF. So I'm going to take this to my listing appointment with me. And once we've decided this is a great way to assume the sell and say, okay, great. This is the paperwork that we're going to fill out. That's going to populate everything on the MLS. So let's talk about your house. Okay, and you're going through all of this information. You can write on this form. If anything's changed, they're like, oh, well, we finished our basement. We've added another bedroom. Okay, change that. oh, we did this and that. Take notes on the remarks. Okay, what would you like included in your remarks? Let's talk about the view. Let's do this. Get them really excited and take notes all over this page and get it signed. Then you're going to come back in here. You can update anything that's changed on it. And then you can move forward in the process as far as publishing the listing. This is the start of publishing that listing. But I always get this input form signed at my listing appointment. If that was all done, see, it doesn't want to let me move because I still have errors. I didn't do it all, but it'll take you to, you can see up here, photo maintenance. It's where you'll go to upload your photos, schedule an open house, upload any listing documents, like maybe a plat map or, you know, just anything that might be pertinent for them to know, how you want any information distributed, and then you can publish it right from here. So as far as like a listing appointment goes, really just getting all of this information 100% accurate and talking through the whole process with them is going to be the most important.
Okay, I have a question, and this is probably a dumb one. Just want to know how, you know, how it actually works in real life. So you said you prepare this with the information that you have, you print it out, you bring it to your listing appointment, and then you go through with the seller, you know, if there have been any changes, maybe they, you know, got rid of one of the bedrooms or they finished the basement or whatever it might be, right? So might be some changes there. And you said you write that by hand.
Yeah, you can change it.
it's-
I mean, you can just write on it, but then you have to come back in here because I saved it as unfinished.
Exactly.
You can reopen it and then you can adjust it. So all the information in here is accurate because this is what's going to go on the MLS.
I understand that, but what you said was, you know, when you handwrite it and then you get it to sign, isn't the signed document that first one that you have is the one that is the legal document? If you go home now and update the one that wasn't finished, and you
Right,
don't
and
have them, does that
You
make sense?
can read it once you've got this all done,
Mm-hmm.
and you can send them a preview of what the published listing would look like. I generally have them re-sign the final copy of
Okay.
this. And I also have them initial the MLS printout showing that how it's showing on the MLS that they've signed off on that.
So you have them basically sign both, like the
I
first
do.
unfinished, and then you finalize it, and then you have them sign
And
maybe
then I
electronically.
finalize it.
Okay,
The
that's what I
reason
was
doing that,
wondering.
it is a little redundant, and I don't know if Nick is still on. He might do it different, but for me, them signing this here is another. It's a step of commitment. And I want lots of buy-in and commitment from them, right? So we go through, we talk about everything. They're excited. Awesome. I said, okay, great. I'm going to go in. I'm going to get this all added to the system. I'm going to send you a preview of what the listing is going to look like, and I'm going to need you to sign off on everything. And then usually when I do that, I should at that point have a preview of the photos I can send them to look at, and they're just really excited and ready to go at that point. So it's not, it's a really easy negotiation at that point. When you send it the second time, if you're like me and you do it that way, I mean, you can always just have them, you know, sign it all once at that second time. You can do it through DocuSign. Let me see, let me get out of this one. I can show you. If you go to transaction, it's going to launch DocuSign. Just a minute here. And you can just add the document from your computer that you've scanned in. And so if we look at this one, so this is the listing input here that's been signed. Let's see, we'll just download it. You can see that it'll just automatically apply the electronic signatures. You can select, like, let's find the one that she didn't sign. Well, we can do this one, this unsigned one. So if you upload it, it's going to show in here. You just simply click on the create envelope button. You can change this. This is showing you what you've got in the envelope for them to sign. You can add the recipient. It's going to make me add someone. I'll just add me. And then you hit next. And then this will open up the document in here for you to assign all of those signatures and initials. And you just simply just drag and drop just wherever they need to be. And then hit send, and it'll send it to them for signatures. Once that you get the email back that they've signed it, you can simply, let me go back into my test one so I don't mess up that actual one. This is usually my test one. So once you've got that in there, you can go to add file and say, hey, I want to go to DocuSign because I had everything signed through DocuSign. And it's going to pull up anything in DocuSign that you've had signed. And you can just click that, hit assign, and it's going to assign it in here. So you're going to want to get all of those signed at your listing presentation. So I have them sign wire fraud. I leave them a copy of the seller's disclosures. I have them sign the exclusive right to sell, and I have them sign the MLS input. Again, I bring them all back with me. I scan them in so that I have a copy to upload to Command. And then I also scan a copy to them and say, here's a copy of everything that you signed with me tonight. It just makes people feel secure. Even though I give them a whole other copy at closing, I bring them a bound copy of everything they signed. People like to be able to go back and say, well, wait, what did we say about that? What was that? And they like to be able to go back and look at them. So I usually send them a copy when I upload it into Command as well. So it's really easy. Everything is in Command, will tell you what you need based on the checklist. Everything is in the MLS. Use the old listings to help populate your new listings. It saves you a lot of time. Just save it as a PDF, upload it to DocuSign to get signatures, or just print it out and take it to your appointment with you. I really do most of my listing paperwork, just wet signatures sitting at their kitchen table with them. It's very rare that I send it to them via DocuSign, because usually it's all part of that conversation and we're making the plan and we're signing everything all while we're right there. You don't have to submit in Command. I don't know how familiar you guys are with it, but there's a submit to Market Center. That is done after you have a contract. So up until you actually go under contract, you're just collecting all of these documents so that as soon as you get the contract, you're ready to do your offers tab, your commissions tab, and submit everything. But up until then, you're just collecting them into Command.
Hey, Amy.
Yeah.
So when you said you don't take the due diligence and wire fraud for the buyer appointment, when do you have them sign the other stuff?
So if you don't take it to the appointment, and it really depends on your relationship with the people, like if you're nervous, are they going to work with me, and you're trying not to overwhelm them, you can send that to them when you send them the REPC, when they're going under contract. You can just send that as additional paperwork to go along with it, because then they're signing all kinds of stuff. They're already committed to you, and you're just like, here's everything that you can have tested on the property, and here's a warning about wire fraud. It's rampant. Don't ever send a wire until you hear from me first. And you can go over all of that with them at that time.
Oh.
You can absolutely get it done during the buyer appointment as well. If it's a client I've worked with before, then I'm totally just going to bring everything, because it's kind of one of those slam dunks, no big deal. Let's just get going on this. Let's get everything signed. We need to get signed and move forward. So it just kind of depends on the situation. But I would advise getting the buyer broker signed as early on in the process as you can.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Does that help a little bit? Hopefully, with just what's required.
Absolutely. There's still going to be a million questions once you get to this point.
For sure. And so this is the first time we're teaching this class, and we're going to kind of refine it and make it better and add more things. And then we'll have it, we're going to probably record it the next time we do it. And then it'll be in our YouTube library too. So if you're like, okay, I don't remember what they said, but I remember we talked about it, you can go back and revisit the class as well and go that way. So,
So let's say they go in the to build, they want to build, and you know how you put 6 months. So
mhm.
do you just send it through DocuSign later on?
You can do an extension to the buyer broker agreement.
Mhm.
Or you can have them sign a new one that covers that whole date range. If I know they're going into new construction from the get-go, I'll probably do it for a year instead of 6 months.
Okay.
A lot of people do them for a year all the time. I see a lot of agents that do them for a year. There's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes clients might be a little sketchy about agreeing to marry you for a year. If they're thinking they're going to get into a house for 3 months, why do I need to sign it for a year? So it kind of depends on the situation. But if I know it's new construction or that we're even looking at new construction, I'll say, let's do this for a year just so we're covered in case you go new construction. But if it's a simple resell, like they just are looking for a resale home, a quick move in, I know they want to be in something in 3 months, then 6 months should usually cover what you need. So, cool. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you
Oh,
so
I
much.
have a
This is great.
question. Why am I
Yeah,
doing-
Kareem.
So is it possible that we could get maybe a list of all the forms we need to upload leading up to them going under contract?
So that's all in command. So leading up to them going under contract is going to be under the consultation tab. And it's going to show you everything that you need leading up to them going under contract. And then once they're under contract, if you hit the under contract tab, those are all of the required documents. And there may be additional documents that aren't on the list that you end up needing because of multiple addendums, or if it needs a lead-based paint, or, there might be other things, but this is your basic list of required documents is going to be in command just under the consultation and the under contract tab. That's your checklist.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye.